Walk along the beach and pick up a handful of sand. It runs through your fingers and falls back. Warm, dry, completely unremarkable. Now consider what's in your pocket. The glass screen you touch dozens of times a day. The fiber optic cables carrying your internet across continents. The solar panels on rooftops around the world. All of them begin with the same material you just let fall from your hand. Sand is silicon dioxide, one of the most common compounds on Earth, and what humans have learned to do with it is genuinely extraordinary. We've taken a material found on beaches, in riverbeds, and in deserts, and turned it into the physical infrastructure of modern life. How does something so ordinary become something so essential? The answer is a story about heat, precision, and one of the longest transformations in the history of human making. Let's get into it right here on Small Things. One ingredient, 3 different worlds. At its core, sand is silicon dioxide, a compound so abundant that it makes up the majority of the Earth's continental crust. It's in rock, in desert dust, and in the grains a child piles at the seaside. In its natural form, it's stable and unreactive. It doesn't corrode, rust, or break down easily. Those qualities, which make sand seem boring, are exactly what make it useful. Heated to extreme temperature, silicon dioxide transforms. The rigid crystalline structure breaks apart and the material becomes fluid, shapeable, drawable, pressable into almost any form before cooling back into a permanent solid. That single transition is the foundation of glass in every form it takes. The bottle, the fiber, the solar cell, all begin there. The long journey from beach to industry. It didn't begin with fiber optic cables or solar cells. It began with a very simple observation that some sands under enough heat turn clear. Ancient glassmaking almost certainly happened by accident first. Campfires built on the right kind of sand, or lightning striking a desert surface and fusing the grains into a transparent crust. The earliest deliberate glass objects we've found date to around 3500 BCE in Mesopotamia, used as decorative beads and coatings. The material was valued because it could hold liquid without absorbing it, a quality no pottery could match. For thousands of years, glassmaking moved slowly around the ancient world. The Romans discovered that molten glass could be blown into complex shapes, and glass blowing became one of the defining industrial techniques of the ancient world, producing containers, cups, windows, and eventually entire buildings worth of glazing at a scale that made glass ordinary for the first time. The first hint that glass might carry something other than wine or light came in the 17th century when scientists began grinding it into lenses. Those lenses became microscopes and telescopes, and through them humanity discovered bacteria, the moons of Jupiter, and the true scale of the universe. Glass had become a tool for seeing things that were previously invisible. The modern transformation came in 2 stages. Industrial machinery mechanized glass production, replacing hand blowing with automated forming and making bottles in millions rather than thousands. Then, in the second half of the 20th century, scientists discovered that glass drawn into fibers thinner than a human hair could carry light pulses over enormous distances without significant loss. The idea that a telephone call could travel as a pulse of light through a glass thread the width of a hair was not intuitive. But it worked, and it changed telecommunications permanently. The solar cell arrived from a different direction entirely, from semiconductor physics rather than glassmaking. Silicon, extracted from silica sand and purified to an extraordinary degree, turned out to be sensitive to light in a very specific and useful way. Expose it to photons and it generates electricity. The discovery was made in 1954 at Bell Labs, and it has been turning sand into energy ever since. 3 inventions, 3 centuries apart, all of them tracing back to the same grain of silica, pulled from the same ground, transformed by the same basic act of applying heat. What heat does to sand. So how does the same grain become three such different things? Through the same fundamental transformation applied to three different problems. Making a glass bottle begins with silica sand, soda ash, and limestone, combined with recycled glass called cullet. The cullet melts at lower temperature than raw materials, saving energy. Together, they go into a furnace at around 1500 degrees Celsius, where the crystalline structure of the sand breaks apart and the material becomes thick liquid, flowing slowly, glowing orange from the heat. Molten glass pours out and is cut at precise intervals into portions called gobs, each one exactly the right mass for one bottle. A gob drops into a mold, is pressed into a preliminary shape, then compressed air blows it outward against the second mold wall, forming the final bottle and hollowing out the inside. The whole sequence from gob to bottle takes seconds, then careful, controlled cooling through an annealing oven, because glass cooled too fast traps stress that will later cause it to crack. Optical fiber demands far purer silica and a far more demanding process. The glass is built into a thick rod called a preform, engineered internally to guide light. The preform hangs vertically above a surface. The bottom end softens. Gravity draws it downward, thinning as it falls, until it becomes a fiber 125 micrometers wide. Coated immediately in acrylic, wound onto a drum. Light sent into this fiber bounces along the interior by total internal reflection, unable to escape through the sides, traveling at close to the speed of light for hundreds of kilometers. The solar cell asks something different of silicon. Here, the oxygen must be stripped from the silica entirely, leaving elemental silicon, which is then purified to a degree that makes bottle making look casual. Treated with precise amounts of other elements, silicon becomes photosensitive. A photon strikes a silicon atom, knocking an electron loose. Direct that flow, cover a panel in aligned crystals, connect them in series, sunlight becomes electricity. Same starting material, same basic atom. Three completely different outcomes. Not all sand is the same. The most common assumption people make when they hear that glass is made from sand is that any sand will do. It will not. The sand used in glass production must have a very high silica content, typically above 95%, with very low levels of iron and other contaminants. Iron, even in tiny quantities, gives glass a green or brown tint. This is not a problem for beer bottles, where the color is intentional and protective. It is a significant problem for window glass, lens glass, or fiber optic preforms, where optical clarity is the entire point. The sand used for fiber optic glass must be purified far beyond anything used in bottle making. Even the tiniest impurity will scatter or absorb the light pulses traveling through the fiber, turning a useful signal into noise within kilometers. The silica used in high-quality optical fiber is among the purest materials manufactured anywhere in the world, measured in parts per billion rather than percentage. For solar cells, the purity requirements are more stringent still. Silicon for photovoltaic panels must be processed to semiconductor grade, a level of purity that was essentially impossible to achieve before the mid-20th century and remains one of the most energy-intensive steps in the entire solar panel manufacturing chain. The same compound, silicon dioxide, sits at three wildly different points on a purity scale, and the difference between those points is the difference between a green beer bottle and a fiber that carries the internet across an ocean floor. Sand is quietly everywhere. Today you'll find silica, in one processed form or another, inside almost every object that defines modern life. The screen you're reading this on, the camera lens that took the photograph on your wall, the laboratory flask that helped develop the vaccine in your arm, the optical fiber that delivered this video to your device, the solar panel charging the car outside, the microchip inside the car, the phone, the hospital monitor, the satellite above the atmosphere, all of them trace back to the same compound. Sand is also now at the center of a resource story most people have not heard. The world is running short of the specific kind of sand used in construction and industry. Not beach sand, which is too smooth and round from water erosion to bind well in concrete, but the angular, coarse-grained sand found in riverbeds and quarries. That specific texture is what makes it useful in cement, in glass production, and in semiconductor manufacturing. Several countries have restricted sand exports. International sand theft, illegal extraction from riverbeds, beaches, and protected coastlines has become a documented criminal enterprise worth billions. The material that seemed limitless turns out to be limited in the exact grades that matter. And the demand grows with every building, every screen, every solar installation. The grain that falls through your fingers on a beach is one of the most sought after raw materials on Earth. It just doesn't look like it yet. The grain beneath everything. So how does ordinary sand become bottles, internet, and solar power? Through heat, through chemistry, through an understanding of what silicon dioxide becomes when the right conditions are applied to it. Most people see sand as one of the simplest materials on Earth, but hidden inside those ordinary grains is the foundation of bottles that preserve our food, fibers that carry our conversations, and panels that capture sunlight. Sometimes, the materials that shape the modern world are the ones we overlook every day. The grain that falls through your fingers on a beach is the same grain that carries your voice across an ocean floor in a thread of glass thinner than your hair at the speed of light. If this changed the way you think about the sand beneath your feet, let us know in the comments what you want us to explore next. We might make it our next episode. Thanks for watching. History often hides in the smallest details.